Well. Not only had I just finished a video for the channel, did West Ham release a video with our manager, David Moyes, and he goes on and he says a lot of stuff. We've got all of the info from the interview. You can go and check it out on the West Ham United's website. I'm going to dissect it, talk to you in the chat and see what you think on the interview. Now, it's an interesting one, and it goes pretty deep. So should we just get started and see what was said? Let me bring up some of the information for you. Now, Moyes went on and first and foremost spoke about the winter break. He said, it certainly is. It's great to get them all back in. We've got Saeed bin Rama around the place and one or two others back in training. So it's good. They all enjoyed their break and had the best part of a week off. So hopefully they're all refreshed and ready to go again. And hopefully it'll have done them the world of good. Now, listen, I seen the pictures today released from West Ham showing all the players in the training camp, and they all looked absolutely buzzing with life. Saeed bin Rama was there, Declan Rice was there, Souček, Soufal, and they were all getting on because you can't deny the squad is getting on with each other left, right, and centre, and it's good to see as a West Ham fan. However, everyone is obviously going to ask and want to know the answers to the questions. Now, whether or not we get the relevant answers, we'll wait to see. So let's move on to the next part of the slide, which is he's talking about the good vibes in the squad. They said they're in great spirits. We know how well they've done in the first half of the season. They should be in good spirits. And they should try and go on to the second half of the season really positive. We've hopefully refreshed them up a bit now. So we're looking forward to the remaining part of the season. And again, that's just emulating what I said when you look at the images sent in from the West Ham website, and it's good for us to see that in the squad that the sorry, I'm just sending a message that the spirits are up. So everything that we do like to see. Now I've just sent a message. Are you thumbs up, thumbs down? What's happening? Yeah, thumbs up. Just bringing them on. Stell's in the house. Stell, you all right, mate? You're muted. Here he goes again. And he's unmuted.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, mate. I mean, obviously you've spent a good old 7-8 minutes listening to the David Moyes interview, dissecting it a little bit, and we're going through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we all thought, isn't it? He's come out and said he's happy with the squad. He's come out and said everyone's refreshed. He's come out and said we've got options up front. He's admitted that it's going to be Bowen that's going to be covering for Antonio. So let's just hope both Bowen and Antonio don't get injured. Yeah, and he said that the board have backed him all the way through.
So we've done the first couple of slides, right, which talks about players coming back into the squad who haven't been around. We've got Saeed bin Rama back. Yep. You've seen the images coming out of the club today. Of course, they're not going to show images of players unhappy anyway, but you can't help but deny, you can't deny the fact that the players are absolutely buzzing with life. They look like they're getting on really well. The vibe in the camp looks really good. He talks about the vibe. We'll come on to that slide in a second. So things look a little bit rosy within the squad when they've come back to their training after their winter break.
I think the squad attitude has always been good. I think Moyes has put a lot more faith in a lot more faith. He's worked more on squad camaraderie than anything else. Because a happy squad is going to bode well. And I think that when it comes to sort of players that we as fans say they're not performing, I think the squad get around those players and try and G them up. You look at the way Vlasic scored his first goal for the club before Christmas, and how even Fabianski ran from the other half of the pitch to sort of like celebrate with him. So I think the camaraderie is actually really, really good in the squad, and I think that's Moyes' number one thing. He even said it today, didn't he? About I don't know the exact words, but he alluded more to it's not the value of the player; it's about whether the player fits into the whole ethos,
the system, which is what he's always stated. And this, I've done a video earlier on. You've done a video yesterday. We've been talking about it all along. The messages have been planted in our head for not just for the month of January, not just for the month of December, for for the year or however long he's been in charge. He has said, I won't, we've known it all along. And this is what I find fascinating, not sticking up for the situation, because I'm disappointed we've not brought people in to strengthen. However, the messages have always been there still. He's not bringing people in for the sake of it. Moyes is also, Mark Noble's also said it. He's done interviews. Everyone else has always said it. We've always known that Jared Bowen was always going to be a backup, but we want another backup. But we then reflect back to the story about Sebastian Haller leaving the club. And if Sebastian Haller wasn't with West Ham before he was, and he was playing the way he was,
we'd be looking at.
Would be a player we'd be looking at. So it's just looking at it. But let's move on to the next slide. It's quite a chunky one. There's 3 sections. I've tried to break it down, but we'll just read through it anyway. And it's about the transfer window. He said it was a late night. I would have loved to have said we'd got everything done and dusted early doors, but look, it wasn't for the want of trying, that's for sure. West Ham supporters can be reassured that we're really ambitious in what we were trying to do. We were really ambitious in trying to get good players and players who could help us make a difference. We've also got Jared Bowen, and it would be very difficult to get a better backup to Mickey Antonio than Jared. And we were always on the lookout to find replacements in several areas, but it just became pretty difficult, and we missed out on 1 or 2 late on. Overall, all I can say is that the board have been fantastic. We probably made 3 record transfer bids from the club in this January window, and let's be fair, January is never really a great time. We've been quite good in January in the main, and in the last few Januaries we've been here, we've signed players and sort of done quite well. But this one, for some reason, became tougher. I also believe it's probably been tougher because we're looking at much different player now, trying to attract some of the top players throughout Europe. I mean, big backing there of the board.
Massive.
Big backing of the board.
And it's no less than you would expect. You know, he's not going to come out. Obviously, he's not going to come out and say, I'm really upset and I'm really disgusted because the board haven't backed me. You know, he's been maintaining this mantra, whether you want to believe him or not. And I know a lot of people read a lot of comments earlier on, etc., about, you know, he's being thrown under the bus by the board, and what do you expect because he's employed by them, and he's not going to, you know, he's not going to say anything negative about them, etc. I think the one thing that we've realised is David Moyes is his own man. You know, he is not going to beat about the bush. And you if he was really upset, then you probably, even if he doesn't say it with his words, you'd probably be able to tell from his tone or his body language whether he means what he says. And I watched that video. I actually watched it twice just to be sure. And it's him. It's this. Basically, this is David Moyes' way. I've had the backing of the board. This is what David Moyes wants. David Moyes hasn't found the right players to bring in to improve us. We all think otherwise, but this is David Moyes, and the board have said do what's right for the team. You know,
it's funny though. I mean,
I can't not believe him. I don't know if that's spin. I don't.
No, I know
a lot of people think
that's
it
the
is.
question. That's the question I was going to ask you. There's loads of comments in the chat. We'll come through to them in a second. But the question I'll ask to you then is Moyes being a mouthpiece for the board? And that's pretty much some of the questions that are in the chat.
Yeah.
I think I watched it. I glanced over it the second time, and I think you know, if you think like me, which you don't like to admit it, but you do. The thing is, I actually think that he doesn't come across like he's been a mouthpiece for the board. He actually is saying, do you know what? These were my decisions. That's what I got from this. These were my decisions. This is who I wanted. It.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the one thing that we've all identified is other people have written stories about it and all that sort of stuff. Is this is the first transfer window that I can remember for a long time that we haven't bought a player, you know, for quite a significant amount of time. Someone may probably correct me in the chat, but it's interesting that, and this is where you can't have it both ways as a fan. We all bemoan the fact that Sullivan used to dabble in the market and buy players whether the manager wanted them or not, and the classic stories have been about you know, Sacco was a purchase by Moyes, you know, and that was probably the only success that you could argue we've kind of had by Sullivan, as a Sullivan purchase. But I think, you know, I know you alluded to the disappointment of the 2016 transfer window when we didn't build on the Bilic success the last season of the Boleyn. But there are a lot of stories that a lot of those players that were brought in were Sullivan purchases, so to speak. You know, the Gokhan tours and all that sort of stuff. And so we have that side of it, and then we have this side of Moyes going, I don't want any interference with transfers. This is down to me, totally and utterly down to me. You know, and now people are saying, well, the board haven't backed him. The board haven't. You know, why have the board not spent money? If David Moyes has turned around and said none of these players are good enough, what are the board going to do? What's Sullivan going to do? Go, no, hang on a minute. I know better than you, and I'm going to go and get that player regardless. Because what would Moyes do? He'd only sit him on the bench and be unhappy about it. Look at the Ben Rama situation, what we were kind of led to believe when Ben Rama came in as a loan to buy. People were saying that was a Sullivan special. And it took how long? A year before Ben Rama really started to play any real football. So I don't think Moyes, I think Moyes is his own man. I really do.
I think he is. There's a comment from Happy Amaret. I'm going to come on to this in a second, and we will address it. Let me continue moving on with the next part. He said, "Well, I think that's one of the things I want to do is make sure that the supporters at West Ham can trust that I'm trying to spend the money wisely, and we're trying to bring in good players, but also we don't want to bring in people who I think are only here just to pad it up and maybe makes everybody in the media think that we've done a bit of good business. The idea in this job is to try and sign good players." Now, you know, that's the part. If I had to start picking a little bit at it, it's a bit like, well, hold on a second. I'm looking at Yarmolenko. I'm looking at
exactly what I'm thinking.
And what's the situation there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when he said that, my immediate thoughts were on Coletta Carr, and I said, well, surely to God, you cannot tell me that Coletta Carr would not have improved this squad. With the greatest of respect to Craig Dawson, and what do you expect for a £2.5 million buy? He's been fantastic, but what I'm worried about is when we get into the latter stages of the Europa League, Anton, yeah, I know he sucks up to people like that. When we get to the latter stages of the Europa League and we start playing the whoever's in there, the Eintracht Frankfurts or the Barcelonas or the, whoever else is there, I'm really worried about Craig Dawson being completely exposed, because I think things like the Premier League suit him. But I worry about, the business end of the Europa League. But ironically, having said that, and people are going to shoot me down now. Ironically, having said that, I think Diop might relish the latter stages of the Europa League because it might suit him playing European teams. Because it doesn't seem to, the physicality of the Premier League doesn't suit him, but playing in Europa might do. But that doesn't stop me from thinking when I read that comment. So what about Coletta Carr? Are you telling me that Coletta Carr wouldn't have improved this squad? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Damn it. I thought it because Freddie came in the room. I wonder if this relates, though, to the situation that we're in where Moyes is breaking down all communications to the media, the mainstream media. Now, he alludes to that in that interview, in that segment of the slide. He says here, where is it?
Not going to appease. He's not going to appease the media.
He's not going to make everybody do something. Yeah. So that makes me think then that maybe some of the stuff that was out there in the mainstream media wasn't true, and maybe we weren't anywhere near Coletta Carr.
Mate, there's no that I don't. No.
I'm just trying to say. I'm just trying to put it out there that we know from doing the shows that we do.
Good point,
we report the news that's given to us or given out into the mainstream media, and then what we do is we look at the players and we think, can they match? Can they fit into the system? Now we're told things and we give that information back out to the subscribers of this channel. However, what we do know for a fact is when it came to the Areola signature, nobody knew it was happening, especially on the day that it happened. And then we released the video and then bang, everyone got over the top and it was great. And not any point did we hear realistically, apart from sources close to the club, which haven't been right in this window, because no one's been right in this window because we weren't bringing anyone in. And was Coletta Carr ever a player that was close? Was it smoke and mirrors? Will we ever know?
I think he was. I think he was, because I know we were linked to an awful lot of centre backs, but at the in the last sort of week and a half, it was only his name that kept coming up, and not that many other. I mean, then we had a dabble of Joe Worrell and one or two others, but look, you and I know where Moyes was at the weekend, don't we?
Yep.
Don't we? Yeah.
Yep.
Which makes me think that he was definitely in for the likes of Coletta Carr. And I don't understand why that particular deal didn't go through. And I kind of said it in the show I did yesterday. You know, I get the whole loan to buy thing when you're not sure about a player. I understand that, but I don't think that would have applied to Coletta Carr. He's a proven centre back playing against some of the best attacking players in League One football. Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, and all that sort of stuff. Played international football. So I think the rumor was true about Coletta Carr, but I just don't understand all this crap about the uh, uh, um,
And,
loan to buy
but
business.
just to be the devil's advocate, the key word there is we think, but we don't know, and will
Of
we
course,
know?
we don't
That's
know.
the key
No,
part. That's the key
we don't
part,
know.
really. I think.
Yeah.
The next part is he says, "Look, we're building and we're growing really well. I think what we're looking forward to now is what's coming ahead of us in the second half of the season. I see nearly every game being a cup final. I hope we're in a cup final somewhere along the road, but really do think that we've got nearly every game now will be a cup final because it's either meaning we're challenging for places in Europe or we're trying to get through in the FA Cup or trying to get through in the Europa League. So I see the second half of this season being really exciting for us. Now, I kind of on that point, you know, the amount of times I've spoke to everyone, and apart from the fact that it was the transfer window, taking away the transfer window, things. If you look at our stats from the first half of the season, we have progressed as a club. There's no ifs or buts about it. People were making the point earlier on in the show, and have been making a point over the last couple of weeks since we've been in the shows that players are tired, they look tired, and they need support and they need help. However, they have had a break, a much needed break. Maybe not Antonio, but quite a lot of the other ones has. And in theory, if they come back and hit the ground running to where they were at before, then we've got a good chance. It can't be that we just
have.
don't sign. But it can't be that we just don't sign players and bang, our season's done. Because it honestly sounds, and I'm not dissing anyone in the chat, but when you look at social media, you would think we were getting relegated.
No.
And I'm not trying to say that in a disrespectful manner. I'm trying to say it in a manner that when I said, I made a comment earlier on, I think Jellied Eels or something's in the chat, and he said no offense to you earlier on, Anton, because I didn't think you were digging me out. I was just saying, like, you know, I'm a half glass full West Ham fan, so I'm appreciative of where we are. I wanted us to strengthen in depth because that would have helped us. If I look at the Man United game, that was what the decision is, what cost us the game, was not having strength and depth on the bench.
But
So of course I'm disappointed.
the interesting thing is for that game, if Benrahma wasn't out on the Afcon, there would have been an option. And I think what Moyes is now thinking is, I have enough options available to me to win games. Because you're absolutely right. Because even for that game, a transfer wouldn't have helped us, and for a number of games. But I think it's not so much. I think it's more about, as everybody sort of alludes to, it's more about the strength in depth. Because and quality strength in depth. Let me reiterate that as well. Now, someone's just made a comment about Moyes trusts these players, and absolutely right. Let me see. Here we go, Rob. He trusts what he's got. Moyes boys, absolutely. What the concern is, it's not just to get anyone in for the sake of it. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think any manager should. And I think some of the managers that have gone out and spent money in the January window might come a little bit unstuck, with some of the signings that they brought in. It's about what happens if Antonio gets injured. What happens if Jared Bowen gets injured? What happens if? And you look around the squad, and we all see the gap: left back, centre back, and striker. In every other part of the team, you would argue that we've probably got enough and decent quality. And I'm throwing in players like Fredericks for right back as an example. When I'm also throwing in someone like Vlasic, who has got to come good sooner or later this season. But when you look at the squad, centre back, we've lost Ogbonna. Left back, we've only got Creswell, and we really suffered when Creswell was out injured. And then striker, we've only got Antonio. So it's I don't know, mate. I think Moyes isn't going to go out and buy anyone for the sake of it, but it's about that he does trust in the squad that he's got, but at the same time, it's what happens if we get injuries in the second half of the season.
Yep, absolutely. Moving on to the next part. He goes on and says about the exciting times. He says, I think team are showing that as well. I'm hoping that the players can get right back to their top form. Obviously, we've just recently got Krezi and Kurt back, which has given us a boost as well. We've got Saeed back from the African nations, so we're very close to full tilt at the moment. And Angelo is the only one who we're really missing, so hopefully we can keep them all fit and keep them in good form. He kind of addresses a few things there. He addresses the fact that we've got players coming back. However, we need to keep them fit to make sure that we can continue with the form.
Yeah. And you don't know what's going to happen. We can get a nasty injury against Kidderminster on Saturday. You know, yeah. As soon and you know, and this is, I think, I think the fan base will implode if we get an injury over the next few weeks, like a pretty serious one, to any key player. I think the fan base is going to go absolutely nuts, and then really sort of. I don't want to be negative, but I just think if we get a serious injury in the next few weeks, the fan base will. I don't think will they turn on Moyes because of what he's come out with.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. You can't. I mean, as a fan, you know, even talking to my dad, the old school kind of fan, he's just like, well, if you want a player, just go and get the bloody deal done. Like, that's his mindset. Just go and get the deal done. If you really want the player, just go and get the deal done. And that's the, you know, sometimes where my mindset's at. And if we don't get the deal done, then why the bloody hell are we not getting the deal done? And you done the video yesterday, you alluded to the fact that if you're going to bid for Rafinha, you're going to bid for Calvin Phillips, you're going to bid for Nunes, why are you not testing the resolve at the start of the window rather than waiting until the end of the window to test the club's resolve? Because then you're in a position of negotiation from there, and you've got time to negotiate. You don't do it from the bit at end, you do it right at the start. And for me, that's why, again, you don't know what to believe. If anything, you don't know how much truth there is in all of it. You're then led to believe from his comments he's making that we have made big bids, and probably they are the three players that we were looking at. But who knows when those bids were made still? They could have been made earlier. We could have negotiated it, but they've only come out into the media because it's been fed out into the media. You know, who knows? He goes on and says, he says here on trust, he said, I would hope so now because we've brought in some good players. I think we want to do it again. We want to keep it going. I said last year, actually, when we were successful last year, I thought sometimes you can have it not quite so easy in your second season to do it again. If anything, we've come back stronger and looked better. So we have to say that that's been good. In the first half of the season, we've been good. So the job now for me is to keep the players fresh and sharp in training, prepared, ready for every game. And if I can do that, I think we'll have a chance of winning a lot of games. And that's what we try and do. I've got lots of trust in the players to play different players and different teams in Europe and in the Cups as well. And I hope they've got lots of trust in me as well. So hopefully that's building all throughout the club just now. What do you think of that?
Well, he's saying he's got trust in the players, and I just seen a comment on. I'm desperately looking for it again because one of the things there we go. That Trini says, my concern with Moyes is that he feels he has enough players, as he's just alluded to in that press conference, in that interview. But he does, and here's the catch. Moyes said, "I've got enough players to play different teams." Now, I think we need to mark his words on that because I'm with Trini on this. I don't think he rotates enough. You know, and that's the concern. Great that you've got enough players. And as Trini has said here as well, and I agree with him, don't keep using the same players until they completely run out of steam. So if you've got enough players and you've got trust in those players and you hope that those players will trust you, then start using Alex Kral in the second half of the season. Start using the youngster Oko Flex as an alternative to Yarmolenko. Start put Ben Johnson back in the team when he seems to have been dropped like a lead balloon for nothing. Now, we were led to believe he was carrying a knock, so maybe that's the reason for that. You know, so if that's the case, and ironically, when I just said that, my mind goes to Fredericks, who is now being used, you know. So I think Moyes does actually use the squad. He just doesn't seem to use the players that we think he should be using, you know. But it's good, but hopefully win more games. Hopefully keep them fit. Hopefully, I think that the players are completely behind David Moyes. And maybe we're going to probably get to it, even though this was in the press conference about what might happen with our star players at the end of the season. But I think the squad trust him, and I think they do, and I think they believe in what he's building. The last couple of seasons has been superb, and if he says he's got enough players to play different teams, I want to see him put that to the test. For example, start on Saturday. Has Moyes got? We'll go back to that one. What did that one say? Or has he got robots? Start doing it on Saturday. There's no need, for example, on Saturday to play Zuma, Declan. Antonio won't be there anyway. There's no need to play Creswell even. No need to play those players. I want to see him bring in Occo Flex. I want to see him bring in, Areola will probably play. I want to see him bring in Krull, for example. I want to see him. I actually don't mind on Saturday seeing Alex Krull play alongside Mark Noble, so that you don't have to worry about. Still, did you just say that the fans might implode? There's always been more toys flying than a motherfucking match. No, mate. I'm trying to, me. I'm trying to put a positive on it. So use the players. Use the players. Moyes has said it. Use the players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes on again now and talks about his methods. He said, think about being a manager is that you don't always have the best players, but your job is to try and make them best they can be. So I see it as my challenge to try and get them the best that they can be. Try and squeeze every little bit of the orange and get everything out of them. And I think of most occasions we're trying to get everything we can. We've got some players who've been in stunning form and sparkling form, scoring goals, playing well. And I think we're on the right tracks to building a good team. But it's funny to listen to, but it's so bloody true because he does. But what interestingly he says here is you don't always have the best players, and we don't, mate. We don't.
No, we don't, and we know that. We know that. We know. I hold my hand up. I keep calling Dawson a championship defender, for example. I keep hoping that Masuaku never plays ever again, ever for West Ham. But that's not down to me. That's Moyes. Moyes has more trust in these players than me and other fans do. But it made me laugh about squeezing the orange. That fucking orange has been run over by a truck, mate. It's like, that orange is like there's no juice. Well, up until now, there was no juice left in that orange. I just hope that orange is revitalized. I really do.
I think it will be. I think he's going to the fruit market and getting a new one, hopefully. He goes on and talks about togetherness. Now, this is an interesting one, and we'll dissect this one a little bit. He says, very much so. I have to say, going back, everybody in the club has been brilliant. They really have been. I have to say, there's been some things said about the board, but the board in this transfer window have been brilliant. They have backed me and tried to support me in all of the moves. I've got to say the work Karen Brady's done to try and see if we could get some deals and get things happening. She's been really good. David Sullivan has been really supportive. Daniel Kretinsky has just come in. And David Gold, they've all been really good in helping me over the window. So it's always good when your owners are helping you and you trusting you as well. We know we're growing. We know we're growing. We're going in the right direction, and hopefully we can keep that going. Big supportive words there of the board. The question is, again, to you though, and everyone in the chat, are the people in the chat, are people West Ham fans suggesting that David Moyes is yes man and just going to say what the board tell him to say? Because for me, I don't take that from David Moyes at all.
No, I don't get that from Moyes either. He could have easily dodged that bullet, and he could have said nothing about the board. He made a point of talking about how the board have been supportive. If he was upset with it, there's many ways of skinning a cat. I'm glad. Well, people
just quickly though, because people will then maybe counter argue this and say this has been released on the West Ham website, so it's coming from West Ham. But I think the point you're making is if he doesn't want to answer the question,
he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to answer the question, so therefore the question wouldn't have been included in the video.
Yeah, he would have been given a list of topics or questions to ask, as most press conferences and stuff like that happen. And if he would have seen a question about the board, he could have turned around and gone, "Can you not include that?" He could have easily have done that. He could have just said, "I don't want that to be part of the interview," and he was more than happy to to talk about the board. This is now look. I know the last few days we've had a lot of stick as a channel, and being called board lovers and all that sort of stuff, and standing up for the board and not for the fans, etc. It's not what it's about. It's about what we understand things to be. And I don't think Moyes is pampering to the board, and I believe him. That's not me being a board lover. I believe David Moyes. I believe what he says it is the way he feels, and there's no reason to really not believe it. But other people may see it differently. I don't know.
Big statements though about even like Karen Brady, for example, getting involved and trying to get deals over the line. But
Yeah, that I don't understand. She shouldn't be doing anything with
yeah,
transfers.
but the thing here for me is that he's basically saying in no other ways that he is in control. That's how I'm taking that
He's
from
in
this.
control. Yeah.
I'm in control, and it's alluding to the fact that every deal that we are sitting there saying, you know, isn't happening or whatever. It's potentially coming down to Mr. David Moyes, our manager.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Happy's saying here he loves licking Brady's arse, doesn't he? Although he does bring a tiny bit of hope, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think he would need to say that. That's the point. I mean, I would be really shocked. I would be shocked, mate. It doesn't matter if it's on the West Ham website or not. I'd be shocked if he is a yes man. And if you fall out with your management or the people that run you, pay your bills and do all this and do all that, you don't need to mention them. If not be, togetherness can be, you can answer that in a roundabout way. And I think the key part for me in this interview, albeit it was on the West Ham website, and what will be interesting will be the press conference for Kidderminster, because then he'll be away from the West Ham, the West Ham bubble. The questions won't be coming from the West Ham bubble. It'll be coming from the mainstream media. So they'll maybe dig a little bit further, and that will be interesting come Friday to see what's said there. But he really does say that everyone's together and I'm the decision maker.
Yeah, he's made it very, very clear, and he's been saying that since he signed his permanent contract with the club. And as we've said in the past, one of the stipulate. But if you recall, there was some time being taken for Moyes to sign his permanent deal. Yes, mate, another one. He took some time, and from what we understand back then, the reason why he took a lot of time in signing the new contract was he was negotiating what exactly was going to happen with regards to things like scouting network and player purchases, etc. He wanted an assurance from the club that they weren't going to interfere, and he's got his wish. And whether people believe that or not, I don't know. I've got to. I don't think David Moyes is a very he's an honest man. One thing we've said about him, he's an honest manager to the point of the way he manages the team. This is a big the way he manages the team, like we said over Christmas, all the other teams were taking advantage of the COVID situation and immediately putting in a request to cancel games or postpone games. Moyes is honest. He's a very honest man. He stands by his word. So he didn't put in a request to postpone games and stuff like that. And his honesty comes across in everything he does and says. To the point of a lot of us getting upset sometimes the way he does things. But I think that goes into what he said in this interview. I think he's been honest. I think he's been honest about the board and backing him. Whether we choose to believe that or not is a different matter. We all have an opinion, and I know we all like to think that the board have saved themselves money. They're selling up next year, etc., etc. Who knows? Who knows? I don't think Moyes. I don't think Moyes would just sugarcoat it if it wasn't there. If he didn't want to.
I get this comment from Paul. It says it's all very good saying he's happy with the squad, but other teams like Villa, Everton, who historically are more direct rivals, have brought well and will be stronger in the second part of the season. And I understand that. However, as you start to think about the players that they've signed and the wages that they're starting to pay, it doesn't fit the system that Moyes is saying. I mean,
yeah,
for me, it's literally been there from the start. We had an Everton fan on who said, "Watch this space. This is what you'll expect to work with a small squad. He doesn't massively enjoy having strikers, and you'll expect to bring in players and you don't do it, but he works well with a small squad. He then says it weekly, every single week. I won't bring in people for the sake of it. If I can think they can do something and they're going to benefit the team, then I'll do it. But I ain't going to pad it up. He's really iterated that again today.
He
He's not
has.
bringing in squad players, like, because that's not going to
It,
help. In
it
the to
this
me
all
and you,
boils
it
down
seems.
to
But to me and you, it feels right to bring in a squad player because it's if there's someone out there better than Yarmolenko, then that's the right decision. But how does he view that? How does Moyes view that? That
yeah.
makes it different to what how we do it?
Oddly enough, but he talks about players being back. Oddly enough, I think there's going to be less opportunity for someone like Yarmolenko to play get any game time, certainly in the Premier League, than ever before. Because I went through them the other day. I said we've got 6 options, excluding Yarmolenko, who can play in attacking positions. Vlasic, Lanzini, Bowen, Benrahma, Antonio, Fornals. That's 6 that he's got options on to play in 4 positions, and then the added is Yarmolenko. So I think it all goes back to whether any players are if we get injuries, that's when he has to revert to the likes of Yarmolenko. But I think he doesn't want to. What would happen if he brought another average attacking player in? In all honesty, we know what will happen. That player will be a squad player and probably never see the light of day. Probably never get to see any game time at all. Because
Yeah.
he'll continue to put in the Benrahmas and the Bowens and the the Vlasiches ahead of him. So I get it. I get what he means, and I'm not even worried. Like I said, it's not for me. To me, it's not so much about the attacking options. To me, the question mark is more about the back than anything else.
Now,
Why we didn't strengthen there.
on this comment from Father Snowman, no more having a go at the board and management. I've come to accept that we're a bang average team playing well beyond our expectations. There's an element of truth in that. However, Moyes has stated again that when people thought we were down and out and we were going to be a one-season wonder, we've come back stronger. Now, 29th of February, 2020, just before the first ever lockdown, I was at the game with you still. We beat Southampton 3-1. We had a fantastic game, but we were sitting in a relegation dogfight. We were sitting in a heavy relegation dogfight. We then played Arsenal next. I think we got beat, well, Man City, then Arsenal, etc. Then we had the lockdown that took place. We came back and we survived. Now, we have been nearly consistent for 2 years. Nearly
Yeah,
consistent for 2 years. Now,
yeah,
for
and
me,
we had a dodgy December.
yeah. So the question I'm asking to you, Father Snowman, and to everyone in the chat is: are we bang average, playing above our expectations? Because if you're bang average, playing above your expectations, you would expect after a year to drop down a little bit. But currently we haven't. And maybe the fans and maybe the fan base are thinking if we don't strengthen in January, which we haven't done, that we'll now start to see that demise. But why should we expect to see that demise when for 2 solid seasons we've been consistently playing well?
Mm,
And,
good point.
and anyone in any part of their life, in any part of their job, would think the same.
Mhm.
I think they would think the same.
Well, this is the question that we've all got to ask ourselves. I think we've gotten carried away with the Champions League. We got to finish 4th because we need to keep Declan and Bowen, and we've got to finish 4th, and it's like the Holy Grail. We've and at the same time, we all say in the same breath that we've overachieved. That none of us ever expected to get within spitting distance of Champions League last season, and none of us expected to be where we're at this season. But I think I think what we've had over the last year or so is that we've been almost there, almost there, almost there. And then people saying, if only we had just another player, we can cement that 4th place. I don't really know about that. There's no guarantee that even if you get one of the best players in the world, you're gonna improve. It kind of happened with Lingard, but then many would argue we got Lingard in when we were 4th and we ended up 6th. So there's that argument. But where do we all expect to be? What level are we at? Even Moyes has said, we're not there yet. This is work in progress, etc., etc. And I think we've. I don't want to say delusions of grandeur because I think that's unfair on the fans, but I think our expectations have raised only because we've had two good years. You know, I said yesterday in the show, if David Moyes consistently makes us top six for next 2, 3, 4 seasons, and in with a shout for a trophy, a cup here and there, I'd be more than delighted with that. More than delighted. I think that would be fantastic. And then after 3 or 4 seasons, if David Moyes really cannot take us any further after that, then all right, when his contract's coming to an end, then perhaps look for a manager that we might believe could potentially take us that next step up. But the next 3 or 4 seasons, if we're 5th, 6th, 7th even, is that so bad? I don't think so.
Let me come on to the last slide. In the last part of the interview, he talks about fixtures. He says, I think we're really looking forward to them all. I mean, we can only ever take one game at a time, and I really want to stay strong in the Premier League, and I'm determined to try and hang in and see what we can do right to the end, because I believe that the league is your bread and butter. And if you do well, then it shows you've got a level of consistency and you're doing a lot of things right most weeks. Would I love to win a cup? I certainly would. I think having good cup runs is really important for the supporters, and I think it's important for the club as well. But everybody wants a good cup run, and we do as well. I think we had a pretty good run in the Carabao Cup, albeit we wanted a bit further than we did. But we want to start getting near the semi-finals and finals and winning cups if we can. And I think the European competition is a really big thing for us, because I think we're all excited about the thought of the draw. I mean, there's not a bad team left in the competition at the moment, and we've got European football in March to look forward to. So there's a lot of things we can really get ready for and be excited about. I mean, he's putting his all. I mean, people are saying put all your eggs in the European basket, the FA Cup basket, but he's just saying their bread and butter is the Premier League.
He's not. Premier League for him.
Yeah.
Premier League, he's going all guns blazing. He's saying if we happen to do really well in a cup competition, then marvelous. It's a bonus.
Yeah.
But he's saying, for me, it's all about the Premier League. And fair play. He's got. But what does that mean then as we get further into cup competitions? But it's going to be interesting. But he's made it very clear. Premier League is where it's all about. And I kind of get that, because if this team, given all the negativity that's happened, when we went through a bad December and now a bad January transfer window, if this team finishes in the top 6, that's a massive statement, isn't it?
Yeah,
surely that's an absolutely massive statement. Do we want a cup? I hear a lot of people, certainly a lot of old traditional West Ham fans going, cup, just win a cup. At least we can have a great day out and stuff. And I get that, and yeah, I've been lucky enough to have seen, a couple of FA Cup wins, etc. But the league is, do we want? Someone made a comment at the bottom here about, do we want a 6 in the league or fighting relegation every season? That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We want to be pushing for as high up as we can. Will Moyes get us to the Champions League? I think he will, but it probably won't be for a couple of years. But that to me is fine. If we continue to finish in the top 6, then fine. But he clearly, I don't know what you think, Anton. What do you think he's right to just say about the league, because he's very clear about it?
Yeah, but I don't doubt for a second though, when it comes to any latter stages of the FA Cup, that it'll be borderline full strength, and the same with the Europa League. I think it will be. I've spoke about Fabianski, I spoke about Areola. I think he likes them both at equal terms, and if we get to the latter stages of the Europa League, will that mean that Areola plays? I mean, we're coming now back into the time where Areola started our last league game, and now it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens, because Areola played quite well.
He played very well.
Manchester United. So
yeah, he played very well.
It's going to make for interesting team selections with David Moyes. But yeah, the league, I think he's saying that because it is the bread and butter. Let's not beat about the bush. It is. But he also says he'll want to win a cup, and the European draw is exciting. And that's exactly how we all feel. And it's exciting. And then we may get someone like Borussia bloody Dortmund, and then bang, Haaland's coming on. And then we get the real list of the Europa League. But at the end of the day, we're still in it. We're in the last 16. And it's a massive achievement. We finished top in that tournament. But yeah, you want to keep going and keep going further. The big thing for me still is I can't be a contradictory West Ham fan, because I have said that Moyes has changed my opinion on how I see football, and I'm not even remotely joking here, on how he reads the game and understands the game. I remember when he re-signed back to the club, I had witnessed watching a video on YouTube of him doing some coaching with young lads, and I thought he seemed rather basic. And I was a bit judgy on him, but who the fuck am I to judge him when he is a coach who's managing football clubs, has a very successful career at doing it, and look what he's doing at West Ham now. He's absolutely changed,
right, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's changed my mindset completely on how we, as a club, are bringing in players, who's the right fit. He even says it today. Not every single player is the best. However, we mold them. Basically, he's saying we mold them, and we're piecing this jigsaw together. And we consistently say Dawson. But Dawson's still there, and it's been a pivotal part of the reasons why we're progressing. And every now and then, we're bringing in a player that can enhance and get better. But Dawson's still there, still performing, still playing. And people get pissed off, and you and me get pissed off because we're thinking Coletta Carr.
I get bemused by it.
No, but we would add. But Coletta Carr would add value to the West Ham, and we think it would work. But then maybe Moyes is actually turning around and going, look at the history of when I bring in players and look at when I play them. So I may sign a player now, but I might not give him a run out until April.
Yeah.
And if we had signed, to all the Vlasic haters out there, if we had signed Vlasic in this January transfer window, you'd all been buzzing.
We would have been jumping through hoops.
But you would have played.
It would have
just trying, who comes into this team? We're talking about strength and depth. Don't deny it for a second.
There's only one player. There's only one player that would have walked into this team. Lingard.
Yeah.
That's the only. I don't believe. I actually, a lot of people are saying Declan's going at the end of the season. I don't believe that. But for me, in all honesty, it's the tried and tested for David Moyes. There's only one player that would have walked into this team in this transfer window, and it would have been Lingard. That would have been it. Even if with these big offers that we've made on, I can picture it now. Imagine if the Darwin Núñez deal had gone through £55 million. Let's say, for argument's sake, I could just see it now. He'd be sitting on the effing bench, and Moyes would be going, "I'm going to give you, get ready, son. You're going on." And it's the 89th minute of the game, and Darwin Núñez comes on and does a Yarmolenko, steps on, final whistle blows, off he goes. I'm joking about it, but I could actually see, if we bought if we spent 50 million.
By the way, sorry, Peter, we're not. We're really not. We're not.
No, we're not, Peter. No,
credit.
No.
I'm repeating what Moyes is saying. Moyes is giving them credit for backing him. I'm not. But I said earlier on in the show, there's an opportunity to hit the reset button, and we, I thought maybe bringing a couple of players in would have helped that momentum. But Moyes is turning around and going, "Don't sign a bloody player just to appease the media and just to appease the fans, because that's not how you run a football club."
Yeah.
So yeah. Lingard said today he wants to sign for us in the summer, not Moneybags Newcastle. Has he said that? I've not seen that anywhere.
Oh, no. But it's going to be no surprise. And someone asked the question about how many players have we got. Let's see if I can find. Here we go. Sahel.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Press that one again.
Yeah.
How many on loan and the contract? Yeah. And Sahel's asked a similar question. Oh no, same one.
Same one.
I'm going to do a show. I said I'll do a show where to talk about the squad, because this summer is going to be our biggest transfer window, probably in the history of the club, because we've got, depending on where we're going to be at the end of this season.
Depends on where we are. Yeah, definitely.
Depends on where we are, and
even away from that, it depends on if we can, like Declan Rice, Jared Bowen scenario as well.
Exactly.
So you're right.
Exactly.
It probably does become.
Yeah, it's going to be a big transfer window. And I don't know, because someone corrected me that the league starts early next season because of
the World Cup.
Because of the World Cup. Now I don't know whether that means whether the transfer window opens early rather than its customary August. So that's going to be interesting. But it's going to be a massive window for us, because we not only do we have a lot of players, getting quite old, a lot of players out of contract, etc. But at the same time, it's going to be quite difficult getting players in, because usually most players will wait for the big tournament and then make themselves available, or their agents will make the players available after the tournament. So we're talking about, oh, we want to bring in this, that, and the other. But there might be a lot of agents ironically, the next January transfer window might be the big one because it'll be after the World Cup. And then all the agents are touting their players. Look, he played in the World Cup, etc., etc. So it's going to be a big transfer window for us in the summer. So yeah, I'm going to do a show on what we're going to have left and all the free players that are going to be available. Mbappe's on the free; he'll be free. Might go in for him.
Diego Costa, I think that's our one. And people slag it off, but I don't know. I'm okay. I quite like his no nonsense approach sometimes, but
well, someone said on the show I did yesterday that someone will have Diego Costa will come on, and at half time he'll nut Moyes because he's been subbed.
He's been subbed. Yeah, I wouldn't even be probably surprised. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's the end of his chat. You can't. It depends on how you look at it. Like, I do trust in the Moyes process. It doesn't mean I agree with absolutely everything he does. I don't agree with the substitution sometimes. I think it takes too long. And I think with some certain players that we could have brought in, I think we could have done that. However, look at where he's got us. And if we are going to keep progressing and sticking there, and we're 2 years into this progression and this transition, then it's all about backing what he's doing. And I'm not going to implode. Because I could, if there was a time I was going to implode, it would have been the summer still. I said it the other night when we were on the show. We could have, the amount of times me and you said to each other, well, what point will you panic when we don't sign a player? And there was preseason games coming up, and we kept using preseason games as our stamping point. And I said Celtic game. Celtic game came and gone, and we didn't sign a player. And it kept happening as we moving on forward and forward and forward. But hey ho, we've come to January transfer window. We haven't strengthened, and he believes in the squad.
Should we finish off with this? Because everyone's talking about Declan and Jared Bowen going in the summer. Now, I get it, because Declan will only have 2 years left on his contract at the end of this season. And people say in order to get as much money for him as possible is whilst he still has 2 years left and no less on his contract. I'm gonna wade in and say no. I don't think Declan or Jared are going this summer.
I think it all depends on where we finish, though. Like,
I don't even that. Even that, I don't think so.
Well, it would be dependent on, like, if the season implodes and we don't do well and we end up 10th and we get knocked out of everything moving forward, and depending on what's getting said to them from above, about investment, then why would they? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science still to realize that big teams are going to look at the teams around them's best players. Their best assets. It's a no-brainer. I did a show several weeks ago, but it's not about being an ITK. It's about using your common sense and realizing that Liverpool play a certain style, and Jared Bowen fits that style, and they're looking for a player like that. Now they've brought Diaz in early. Yeah, they've brought Diaz in early, and that might scupper any form of deal, but that wouldn't probably stop them anyway. And Manchester United are struggling in a position that Declan Rice can play in, but all that sort of stuff. So it's not a rocket science to work out that players are going to be interested around them. Yep. I agree with you, though. Why is he going to leave? I don't think he will leave this summer. I hope he doesn't leave this summer. And you don't want Declan Rice to leave, do you? You want him to stay? There you go. And I think he will. I think he will stay. But then still, a point I made earlier on, and it's not a justification for selling him, but many bigger clubs than West Ham have sold their best players and invested in the club and the system better. And no one other than Leicester have done it more recently. And look where they are. They're not having a great season this year, but they're there or thereabouts consistently for the last 5 seasons.
I think for me, if we sell him this summer, we'll get 130 for him. If we sell him the following summer, I think we might get 80, 90 for him. So we might lose 20, 30, 40 million pound off. But I think to keep him for one more season, I'd willingly sacrifice that 20, 30 million pound, but I don't think he's going. And I don't think Bowen's going either. I think Bowen is he's loving his time at West Ham United. And I think he'll give us at least another season as well. But Hammerhead is asking what I've been smoking, but there you go.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know, Hammerhead.
Yeah, there you go. You don't want to know. No, I think they're both staying, and this is why this summer, the summer transfer window is even more important.
Yeah,
even more important.
Absolutely. Before we go, two things to quickly address. Stuart Downing live tonight, X-Hammer, coming on with DJ Russie B. Go check it out, 9 o'clock. You can get your questions in by putting a Q at the start of the thing, and he will be doing live answers to you as well. So it's a great coup for the channel. Stuart Downing, another ex-West Ham pro, coming on. And then go and check out this prize still. I don't know if you've seen this prize, but check this out from Football Prizes.
That's nice.
What a really nice prize. So I've put the link in the chat if you're interested in buying it. The tickets are costing for this one £8.95. There's 99 tickets to be sold, and so far 29 tickets have been sold for your chance to win that stunning framed picture, signed tops from Declan Rice and Mickey Antonio. The link is in there as well. Still, any last words you want to say?
No, I just think we've got to trust him. We've got to continue to trust David Moyes, and let's not get carried away with the negativity, and because Moyes believes in the squad, and there's no reason why we there's no reason why we can't have a decent second half of the season. As Common's just said at the bottom there, be positive. Be positive. We've got a lot to be positive about. All right, I know teams around us have got games in hand and all that sort of stuff. Matt's bought about 20 tickets already, Lee. I just think, who knows? Who knows what could happen? This squad's unified. This squad is together. It is the injuries that worries me, but let's see.
Absolutely. That brings an end to the show. Hope you've enjoyed it, and it'll be interesting to hear what your take is on it. Like I said, we've got the show at 9 o'clock. I think we're thinking of maybe doing a members show coming up soon.
No, we were, but
but we'll do something.
No, we have to do a members show because we promised them one a month.
Yep. So we'll get that done for you as well. And if you are interested in becoming a member, you can click the link when it says join as well. And as Russie B does all the time, he thanks everyone for becoming a member. Anyway, subscribe, like, and comment, and come on, you Irons. Take it easy.
It's like a family tree.